I'm 7 weeks postpartum, so mother-in-law started being invasive in my last month of pregnancy. She started coming over constantly, uninvited, and it was always the most inconvenient of times as well. Every time I tried to catch up on sleep, she would be at my door the second I started dozing off. Never failed. I stopped answering the door for her just to have my husband blow up my phone and say to open the door because his mom was there. Then I went into false labor, and she showed up at the hospital expecting me to let her in the delivery room. She never asked us or anything. She literally showed up during a cervical check, sat down with my husband, put her hands on his leg and said, "I'm just here to hold my baby up." The nurses were frazzled because she literally just walked in like she owned the place. It was 3 a.m., so they were short-staffed and didn't see her walk into the ward. Anyways, I've had a bad taste in my mouth since then. She was told several times that she was overbearing, and she would stop for a bit and then start back up when it was forgotten. But after I had the baby, she was showing up easily 3 times a week. I didn't say anything initially because my husband was super anxious, and the added support was nice for him, despite being inconvenient and irritating to me, especially given that she has no interest in the baby, but has invited people over here to see the baby without asking. She showed up here with my sister-in-law and my sister-in-law's 2 kids when I was a week postpartum and didn't ask her anything. It's irritating, and 2 weeks ago I finally snapped. I said she needs to stay away for the foreseeable future because I'm tired of her inviting herself into my home and taking up space. She's held the baby twice in the 30 times she's been here. She doesn't help us with anything. My husband told her to stay away because I needed space. But last night around 6 p.m., she randomly showed up at our door. I had just gotten out of the shower and was hanging out nude in my living room, nursing the baby. My husband asked me to get dressed to let her in for a minute, and I said absolutely not. I didn't invite her there. He could go outdoors if he wanted, but I'm not getting dressed so she can come in after showing up uninvited. She said she spoke to my husband, and he told me she had, but he didn't give her a yes on coming over. He told her that he would talk to me about it, and she just showed up 2 hours later. He says I'm pushing away his mom for no good reason. I argued that I was pushed into this by overbearing and disrespectful behavior. I say since she doesn't respect me or the baby, she just doesn't need to be here right now. He's saying it's my kid too. I should have a say in who's here. Edit. My husband is 100% spineless when it comes to his mother because she inflicted strong abandonment issues on him, and now he's just happy to have her back in his life. She gave custody of him to her oldest daughter, who was 22 at the time, because she wanted to go live with her new boyfriend, who was kid-free. From when he was 6 until he was 17, she only saw him on Thanksgiving and Christmas because she moved to Canada with her boyfriend. She and her boyfriend split up when he was 18, and she moved back in and was actively a part of his life again. He was still living with his sister when I met him at age 21, and we moved in together. We have been together for 6 years. She was only coming over to see us maybe 3 times a year prior to the last month of my pregnancy, when she felt it was necessary to be at our place every other day or every 2 days. He says I'm pushing away his mom for no good reason. Oh, you poor, clueless, spineless husband. Not the idiot. In fact, now that you know what works, be naked as much as possible. If she happens to show up when you're wearing clothes, get naked as well. Run around topless, ready for feeding in an instant. Mostly I'm joking, but you will have to find a way to set decent boundaries here, because this could just get weirder as the child ages. Who knows? You just had a baby. Your mate's job is to make your life easier as you're recovering from a very strenuous, challenging year of growing another person, pushing that person out, and making milk for that person. Your husband's job is to care for his wife and child. Full stop. This is a hill to die on. He's afraid his mom will bail again, just like she did when he was 6. He was still a little kid, trying to please mommy to make sure she doesn't run away. He needs a therapist, like yesterday, because he can't be a good parent if his top concern is his mother, and if he's not willing to grow a spine, It's not mommy who's going to run away this time. It's going to be OP and their kid. I, 20 female, married my husband 2 years ago. We aren't rich and don't care that much about weddings, so I wore my prom dress to my wedding. It's not a super fancy dress or anything. It's basically a long sequin dress in deep dark blue with one sleeve. My friend Sierra, 22 female, was attending my wedding. Since the wedding, I've worn it on a few occasions because it's the only fancy dress I own. Recently, Sierra was getting married, and I was obviously invited. The wedding color scheme was dark blue, and she requested fancy attire, and I thought my dark blue dress would be fine. It's not white, it's not even remotely close to a wedding dress. I also didn't feel like wasting money on another fancy dress I would never wear again, especially since we aren't rich. So I showed up at her wedding in my dark blue sequin dress. It wasn't standing out or anything. Most of the guests were wearing even fancier dresses. However, when Sierra saw me, she lost it. She yelled at me in front of all the guests, in front of her husband and my husband, saying that what I did was horrible and that no one shows up at a wedding in a wedding dress. I tried to reason with her, saying that the dress wasn't a wedding dress. It was the only fancy piece of clothing I owned. I wore it on multiple occasions before and after my wedding. She didn't listen and kept yelling at me to the point that her bridesmaid and her husband tried calming her down. She also said a bunch of unsavory names to me. I was very upset with the drama and decided to leave with my husband. Then I started getting texts from Sierra, who blamed me for upstaging her on her wedding day and for driving a wedge between her and her husband, since he said that she overreacted massively and upset her friend over a dress. I decided to ignore them because I thought she was being unreasonable, but a part of me thought that I was an idiot because I did wear the dress to my own wedding. This is your fancy occasion dress that you wore to prom and multiple other events and just happened to wear to your wedding. It's not a wedding dress. And Sierra manufactured a conflict where no one would have even been the wiser. You didn't drive a wedge between her and her husband. She did by acting ridiculously. Not the idiot. And Girlie's husband is right. She needs to get a grip. Sierra has a different problem with OP and deliberately manufactured a situation. She specifically picked dark blue and fancy. She knew OP wore that dress multiple times. I would think there was a close to zero chance that she thought OP would go out and get a different dress. I think Sierra's a drama llama. Yep, it's a setup. The fact that the groom stuck up for OP makes me think that the bride is jealous. This has come up before between them, and she wanted to embarrass OP at her wedding. I suspect she lost you as a friend, and her husband is likely to lawyer up soon. She sounds like she'd be a nightmare to live with. Take comfort in knowing that she ruined her own wedding. The only thing anyone is going to remember about her blue-themed wedding forever is that she had a gigantic meltdown over a blue dress and acted like an idiot. That's on her. I am so curious to know what the other guests were thinking as they watched her yell at OP for wearing a blue dress with blue as the color theme. LOL. That must have looked unhinged to them. I'd be so confused if I saw a bride screaming at a guest for following the requested dress code. Block Sierra's number and get that lunatic out of your life. I, 27 female, got together with my ex-husband, Liam, 33, when I was 19 and he was 24. Our relationship was perfect until we got married 3 years after we got together, and then he started restricting me from many things. He was always the jealous, overprotective type, but never as bad as he got after we got married. He guilt-tripped me into dropping all of my male friends, even cousins. He wouldn't let me go out until he approved of what I was wearing, and he threw away all my even mildly revealing dresses when I was at work one day. But I loved him and stayed with him for 3 years. And during those 3 years, I realized that I'm bi, but I never told my husband because I was scared that he would force me to be a shut-in and never even let me hang out with my girls, and he would make me drop them too. Fast forward, he got worse and worse until eventually I ended up getting a divorce about 2 years ago. It was a messy divorce, and he tried his best to slow down the process as much as he could. He also was convinced that I was only divorcing him because I was cheating on him. After all, he'd been so perfect to me, so why would I want to divorce him? It took a while and a lot of therapy for me to trust people again and to start dating again. Eventually, I decided to explore my identity, and now I've been dating a close friend of 5 years, Amy, for about 6 months. I don't know how, but he found out that I'm dating a woman, and he's been blasting my socials with spare accounts about how this proves I was cheating on him and how it's unfaithful in general for me to hide my orientation from him. He deserved to know, and I'm an idiot for not telling him. He also ended up telling my parents, who I'm very low contact with, for being not good parents, and they're also blasting me with calls and texts about how they didn't raise an unfaithful witch, and I shouldn't have hidden it from him. I confided in some friends, and they all say it wasn't unfaithful of me to tell him, but he deserved to know. And now I'm starting to feel like the bad guy. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He was abusing you, and you were already isolated. You didn't tell him out of fear for your safety. His reaction, and that of your parents, proves that you made the right decision concerning the divorce and the low contact. You don't need them in your life. They don't deserve you in theirs. He's your ex, who's obviously keeping tabs on you. You don't owe him any info. You don't owe him any contact at all. Just be glad that you never had kids with him. Congratulations on escaping a toxic relationship and putting your life back together. Block him, lock down or delete your social media accounts, and move on. Let him fester. It's none of his business, or your family's who you date. Just live a happy life with your gal. I'm 35 male, a medical doctor, working as an internal medicine hospitalist at a major hospital. Recently, I was on a long-haul international flight. Usually I sleep on flights, but this was during my waking hours, so I decided to spend my time enjoying the in-flight entertainment and free drinks. I had already been drinking even before the flight while in the lounge. I wasn't slurring or excessively intoxicated, but I was feeling a solid buzz. Usually I don't chat with my co-passengers. I just sleep or do my own thing. On this flight, the configuration of the business class cabin was such that the passengers in the middle row were practically just beside each other. There was just a small barrier separating me and my co-passenger, females mid-30s, that could be raised, but it still didn't do much to separate us. She started up a conversation, and being a little intoxicated, I was also feeling chatty. When she asked what I do, I mentioned that I'm a doctor and I work at such and such hospital. After some more small talk, we both started doing our own thing. I was trying to watch my movie and enjoy my drinks when an announcement was made asking if there was a doctor on the flight. Normally, I would present myself to the cabin crew and help out, but after several hours of on-flight boozing, I was pretty intoxicated. I wasn't able to think clearly and probably would have done more harm than good in such a situation. I didn't react to the announcement at all. I continued watching my movie and drinking my drink. My co-passenger tapped me and said they had just announced they needed a doctor. I replied that someone else would help, or they would get instructions from the medical team on the ground. She tried convincing me to help, but I refused. She then said I was an unbelievable idiot, and that if the passenger died, it was my fault. I said, listen, lady, just because I'm a doctor doesn't mean I'm on call 24/7 to provide medical care on demand. I work when I'm at the hospital. Outside, I'm just like anyone else, and I'm entitled to drink and relax. She had a disgusted look on her face, but didn't talk to me after that. I didn't want to engage with her either. I'm not sure what happened to the passenger who needed medical assistance, but since I didn't hear any more announcements, I assumed all was well. While exiting the aircraft, this lady called me an idiot again. In my mind, I'm very clear that since I was intoxicated, I could not provide medical assistance. I was drinking on my own time, and there was no expectation that I would need to be sober. Doctors get to enjoy life too. I can't stay sober on every flight, just in case there's an emergency. I don't think I'm wrong, but I thought I'd get external opinions. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. The crew would not have used you in your capacity as a doctor, as you were intoxicated. By law, they cannot, as you're well aware. They would have gotten assistance from another sober doctor on board and the ground medical team. Your fellow passenger is an idiot for saying those things to you. Hopefully after the flight, she learned that it couldn't have helped because you were drinking. You are the idiot for your unnecessary rude attitude. A simple, "I'm too intoxicated," would have sufficed. Why didn't you just tell your co-passenger that? How you describe it, you've appeared not to want to help, which comes across as cold and callous. In her situation, I would have thought you a huge idiot, and you really did nothing to let her know you weren't. Disagree. I don't get why OP would owe anyone an explanation for not intervening. It's as if people expect healthcare workers to respond to every emergency in their daily lives. They're regular people too. You could have done more damage by being intoxicated and trying to play the hero than just keeping quiet. You were right not to volunteer. My son and daughter-in-law married in college and soon had my grandbaby, Shelley. Shelley's a young grammar schooler. Before this Christmas, they lived in an apartment and didn't really decorate due to space. They would celebrate at my place, and Shelley really loves our tree. It's basically very bright with all the colors of the rainbow. This year, I thought it would be different since they bought a home. In the summer, I bought some colorful Christmas ornaments for them since I knew decorations are expensive. I babysit every Tuesday, and last Tuesday, the tree was up. My son asked me to finish it if I wanted since both parents were busy with work and didn't want the boxes to be out all week. So that's what I did with Shelley. I put up every ornament that was out, along with the ones I bought. There were a lot of dark-colored ornaments. Shelley loved it, and she spent a long time just looking at it. Yesterday I came back, and every single colorful ornament was off the tree. I asked Shelley what happened, and her mom, daughter-in-law, took them all off. She was quite upset talking about it. The tree's just dark with basically no color now. I waited until both of them got home and asked why she removed the ornaments. She responded that she didn't like how they looked. It was too overstimulating for Shelley. Shelley doesn't have any disabilities. I asked if she was serious, and she told me she was. At this point, I asked if she was the color Grinch, since she destroyed something Shelley loved. She got really mad, and I told her to put it back up for her daughter and that she could deal with colors that didn't match in her home. She called me a jerk. My son is annoyed with me since it is their home. I just can't understand why they would mess with something their daughter loved. Am I the idiot? I don't care that the tree isn't my vision. My issue is them taking away something Shelley loved because it doesn't match her mother's aesthetic. Who puts their vision over their kid's happiness? You are the idiot, not because you love color. People have asked me if my outfit came with a dimmer switch, but it's your daughter-in-law's house. You owe her some respect. Why don't you apologize and ask if you could buy a miniature tree for your granddaughter's room? Then take a box of ornaments over and let the granddaughter pick out the one she likes in front of her parents. If the daughter-in-law agrees to the tree but still balks at the balls, then all you can do is have a tree for your granddaughter at your house. You didn't want your mother-in-law decorating your house, did you? You can rainbow your own place. Learn your boundaries. The son asked the mother to do it because they were both so busy. Why can't the daughter-in-law just let her daughter have an enjoyable Christmas? Is that so hard to do? I seriously doubt ornaments overstimulated her. That's just what beige mom says, so they can live a bland life. Daughter-in-law's the idiot. When they read this story, did anyone immediately think of the sad beige mom on TikTok who spray painted her kid's Fisher-Price Christmas tree brown and neutrals to match her aesthetic? Yeah, sad beige trees for sad beige children. I feel bad for OP's granddaughter. She apparently loved the tree, and it got taken away since it wasn't the right look. I don't get why parents put looks over kids' happiness. It's up for a month. How hard is it to keep the colorful tree up? Those parents also buy expensive biodegradable sand toys in muted pastel colors. But as soon as the kids see a cheap, colorful plastic bucket, the expensive stuff becomes entirely uninteresting.